Ezra Levant here. I just landed in London, came straight from the airport. It was an overnight flight, and I've come to Canary Wharf, which is a very interesting neighborhood in the UK. It used to be sort of derelict docklands, but about a generation ago, a Canadian real estate developer, the Reichman family, turned it into a gleaming set of skyscrapers. It really rivals Manhattan in terms of commerce and steel and glass and chrome. Totally moved the financial center of London here. And it's very different from the rest of London, which is about history and old architecture. Here, it's all about new. You could be forgiven for thinking you were in the United States. It's high end because everyone here is a banker or an investor or an insurer. And there are hotels, obviously, and high-rise condominiums. And there's also this hotel, the Britannia International, which I was just told by a local was really the first hotel of its sort in these parts, but it's been a little while since it was freshened up. Of course, COVID was difficult for all hotels, and very recently this hotel did a deal. Instead of investing millions of dollars in renovating and refurbishing, they cut a deal with the government to shut down as a hotel and to turn this building in the heart of this residential and commercial neighborhood, to turn this into an urban refugee camp for military-aged migrant men who come over from France in little boats. So the men who are going to be jammed in here by the hundred in a 4-star hotel, I looked up the pricing. It's more than £400 a night when it was operating as a hotel. That's quick math, 700 Canadian dollars a night. It is not cheap, but only the best for illegal migrants whose first act on British soil is to break the law, to come illegally, to shred their documents, and to say, I'm an asylum seeker. Of course, that's not true, and everyone knows it's not true because they're coming from France. And France is not a dangerous place. It's not a illiberal dictatorship. If you're coming from France, it means you're coming for 2 reasons. You know the UK is a soft touch and they won't deport you. And you know they're going to give you 4-star hotels. I mean, let me ask you a question. If your choices as a opportunity-seeking, swashbuckling young man from, I don't know, Afghanistan or Pakistan, if your choices were come to the British government's all-expense-paid 4-star hotel in amazing Canary Wharf, or go to Alligator Alcatraz, Donald Trump's new maximum security prison, or you know what he's doing with illegals in the United States, right? He's rounding them up, deporting them, sending them to that El Salvador Supermax prison, or they've just built this new Alligator Alcatraz, as they call it in Florida. Where would you go as a BSing migrant? I mean, if you were truly desperate, you would go anywhere you could. But like I say, these men are coming from France. They're coming in bad faith, and everyone knows it. But imagine being a resident here. I've only been here on the street for about 15 minutes, and I've seen so many young women jogging by. I've seen so many tourists. I've seen so many people who their daily lives would be immediately changed for the worse if you had hundreds of military-aged migrant men, especially from countries where they treat women atrociously, where the idea of respecting a woman's space is unknown, where if a woman goes out uncovered, it's proof that she must be a prostitute, and thus you can do what you want with her. People are being brought to the UK by the thousand, approximately 1,000 a day in these boats. Now, the United Kingdom is surrounded by water. The English Channel, it's like a moat. And for centuries, the English Channel has served as a defense to this island. It's what stopped Hitler from invading. It's what stopped Napoleon from invading. The fact that the UK is an island is its greatest defense, and it also caused the Royal Navy for centuries to be the world's greatest navy. It's one of the reasons why Britannia ruled the world, but now Britannia is being ruled by any ragamuffin who can find his way here. The UK still has a formidable navy. After the United States, it's probably the most powerful navy in NATO. They could stop these boats in a second. Instead, they escort these boats in like concierges. I could only imagine someone growing up loving the stories of Admiral Nelson, loving Master and Commander, the series of books about the Royal Navy's exploits. If you haven't seen that movie with Russell Crowe, I highly recommend it. Imagine growing up loving the idea of the Navy. And then when you're faced with this, truly an invasion, a slow motion invasion, instead of defending your country, you act as the bellhop, the bag boy, the baggage handler for these migrants who are coming in bad faith. So many of them, of course, immediately go on the jihad watch list. The UK has more than 40,000 jihadists who are actively being monitored. It's a terrible situation, and things have finally snapped. The reason we're here at Canary Wharf, the migrants have not moved in yet. This has just been announced as sort of a spillover refugee camp for other neighborhoods that have had enough. And one of those neighborhoods is a couple hours away from here. It's called Epping. In Epping, they have a migrant hotel, not as luxurious, not as large. And one migrant who just came over, I think 8 days previously, has been charged with sexual assault against a young girl, literally days after getting off the boat. I mean, think about it. You come from a country where sex is repressed, where uncovered women are anathema, and you come here to the UK, a high trust society where women walk on the streets uncovered and they're completely safe, and you're like a fox in a hen house. And so this man allegedly sexually assaulted this girl days after arriving here. And so the local community of Epping, which is probably more close-knit than in a metropolis like Canary Wharf, they took to the streets in a noisy but peaceful protest against the migrant center. Incredibly, police in Epping were filmed sneaking in professional protesters pro-migrants. Let me say that again. All the local community, especially mums, came out to defend their girls, to defend the safety of young people in Epping. And the police actually used their police vans to sneak in counter-protesters. It's as if they wanted to create an incident, like a Reichstag fire, to create a violent conflagration so they could say, look at this, far-right terrorists have caused violence, we need a national crackdown. What's interesting is I've arrived here in the UK just 48 hours after their Online Safety Act or Online Harms Act, I forget what it's called, their new censorship bill has taken effect. And one of the ways this new censorship bill was sold to the country was it would stop child pornography. Well, who could be against that? But wouldn't you know it, the first application of this new online censorship bill has been to censor videos of these protests against migrant refugee camps. Who could have guessed it? The UK is a country, I can remind you, that has 30 arrests per day for people saying things on social media, much of it contrary to open borders, mass immigration. The UK really cannot be called a completely free country. It's a partly free country. I haven't been arrested yet, knock on wood, but it's a combination of issues. Because mass migration has led to so much, incredibly, the UK is now the #1 rape capital of Europe on a per capita basis. It was not this way. This is the original high trust society. So instead of dealing with the primary problem, the government's trying to deal with the secondary problems, denounce the protesters, censor the news. They simply cannot find themselves a way to deal with the primary problem, which is mass immigration of people who are not a fit for the UK, and in some cases come here as avowed enemies. I want to tell you one last story. A couple of weeks ago, a shocking story was broken in a number of newspapers. In the UK, they have something, a legal trick that we don't know in America or Canada. It's called a super injunction. What is that? Well, you know what an injunction is. It's a court order. And in North America, there are occasionally court orders for publication bans. In my country of Canada, that's often when a minor is involved to keep the child's identity secret. And we all know that order is in place and we understand it, and it's limited to that purpose. But in the UK, they have a super injunction, which is they have a publication ban on something, and they have a ban on talking about the ban. So there's a secret ban in place. You're not even allowed to talk around or about the ban. You're not even allowed to acknowledge that it exists. And what had happened 2 years ago, the Conservative government, as it then was, sought a super injunction to keep secret their plan to bring up to 200,000 Afghans into the UK in secret flights and to stick them in the community. And they had some ruse, some excuse. Oh, well, we had a data breach and these were translators in Afghanistan and we have to protect them from the Taliban. Really? You had 200,000 interpreters in Afghanistan? Pull my other leg. When there was an election last year, the Labour Party took over as government. They kept the super injunction in place. So what you see here is the uniparty, the Conservatives and the Labour, both supporting the super injunction that kept secret from the British people and even secret from MPs, from Parliament itself, that there was a plan to bring in hundreds of thousands of Afghans. I'm told that there were only 1,000 translators, and I'm not sure why that gets them a ticket to the UK, but to bring in 200,000 claiming they're friends and relatives is just completely shocking. What has changed in the UK in the past week, by my observation, is for the first time, people no longer care about being called far right or whatever they're being labeled. There have just been too many rapes, too many sexual assaults. Despite this online censorship, the word is getting out. And when severely normal mums and dads are protesting, it's not just activists protesting. I think we've reached a tipping point. There's no one here today. There was a boisterous protest earlier. Of course, this is the fastest I could get to the UK. I'm in the UK for a couple of days. I'm now going to head up to Norwich, which I understand is going to have a similar protest. And I will go to Epping tomorrow, which is where this whole thing kicked off. The reason they were protesting here is that they heard the migrants were going to be relocated from Epping to the heart of Canary Wharf. Last point, when I was just talking to some of the locals to get the lay of the land, one woman who works in a neighboring hotel, she had her name tag on, she said that an entire building, because there's a lot of residential towers here, an entire building's tenants were going to have a protest. And I thought, okay, this is London, it's a progressive city. I said, protest on which side? I mean, I didn't know, I didn't want to assume. She said, of course, against the refugee camp. If you're paying premium rents, or if you bought a luxury condominium in this new revitalized community of Canary Wharf, if you're a young woman working on their version of Wall Street, if you're someone who, you know, there's so many people who are out and about here, and imagine what this street will be like when you've got hundreds of indolent men in there, don't speak the language, don't have anything to do. I'll say it, sexually frustrated, because of course they are. You're from Afghanistan or wherever, and you come to this, you know, high trust society. That apartment building, said that lady, is going to have a protest. I'm sorry I won't be here to see it, but maybe I'll come back. That's my report from Canary Wharf. It's a gorgeous neighborhood that's about to be turned into a refugee camp because this government cannot do the simple task of keeping this daily invasion at bay. It's incredible to me, but the glimmer of hope, the silver lining here to me, is that after years of being silenced and demonized, ordinary Brits are speaking up. My friend Tommy Robinson has been talking about this for years, and he has been called every name and prosecuted and put in prison. But you can do that to a handful of activists. You can do that to political people. But when hundreds and even thousands of mums and dads start marching, yeah, either you become a police state and build a lot more prisons, or something has to change. That's the news from the UK. To see all my reports on this subject, go to migrant reports. And if you think this is useful content that you can't find on, let's say, the BBC or CBC state broadcaster, do me a favor and chip in a few quid. I came over from Canada on my own time, economy class airfare. I actually don't even have a hotel room. I'm not sure where I'm going to be tonight. If you can chip in, please do. You can do that at migrantreports.co.uk. I'll do my best to tell you what's going on here as I learn and teach at the same time. Thanks. I'm standing in front of a 4-star hotel in Canary Wharf, London, a beautiful neighborhood. They're going to turn it into an urban refugee camp and put hundreds of migrant men in there. Just incredible. I'll tell you what the community's saying in response here and across the UK. To see all my reports and to chip into our crowd-funded journalism, please go to migrantreports.co.uk.